With me in the studio are Ahia Public Outreach Director of the Breaking the Silence organization. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining me.
Good evening.
And also Amir, Oוחana, a member of the Likud Party. Good evening. Thank you very much for coming.
Losy. Thank you.
So I will start out with you, Ahia. In the last few days, you, the organization, received a lot of critiques from the Israeli society, calling you traitors, calling you not Zionists, calling you going behind the back of Israel or stabbing Israel in the back or in the face, let's call it. And basically, let's put things into perspective. You, all the groups served in the army, and you've been there. So what is, tell me this part of the story from your side.
So, Breaking the Silence is an organization of ex-soldiers who served in the West Bank and Gaza, in the occupied territories. We all did our mission, and today we want to come back to the public and come and say, this is the reality that is going on there. And we want us, as a society, to take a responsibility of what is going on there and decide if this is the future we want to see to the state of Israel, to our children.
Ahia, do you understand what we heard the member of the parliament from Sweden saying that Israel is facing a lot of threats. Israel cannot afford to itself to sit back and just say, okay, let's try to dialogue with the terrorists. And Israel, in one way or another, cannot stand on the side and watch people being stabbed on the streets and not do anything, or just go and handle some kind of a peace negotiations when on the side of Israel, Israel's saying there is no partner.
I don't want to deal with the question of what is partner or not partner. What I know, and exactly like you say, we need to protect our country. I was a soldier for 3 years, combat soldiers. I did many operations in the West Bank. But most of the time, what we do there as soldiers is military control over millions of people, civilians. I entered civilian houses in the middle of the night, innocent families. You need to put them against the wall, take pictures of them, start questioning them. You have children crying there, yeah? What I'm trying to say is this is something that we need to deal with. Obviously, we need to protect ourselves. But let's protect ourselves in our borders. Let's protect ourselves from the future, which the occupation is part of our life. The settlements are part of our life. And, in the end of it, a future which we cannot create borders between us and the people over there.
Yeah, hearing this, let's say, ideology, or hearing this point of view is legit. This is how they think, this is how they see things. Seeing the, let's say, the amount of outrageous comments and critiques in the Israeli society about this point of view, it seems that these people, and from the subtext that I'm getting, or the text that I'm getting in the Israeli society in the last few days, is that they're not legit to even be here or be part of Israel. And after all, we are talking about soldiers that went and served in the Israeli army and did what they had to do.
There is a debate within the Israeli society about 67 borders, and it's a legitimate debate. You know, I'm on the one hand, and maybe Ahia is on the other hand, and this is okay. But this is not what Breaking the Silence does, because what they do is partially show a picture that is not the whole picture. Even if I would grant them that every single testimony that they give is true, and we cannot grant that because they are anonymously, so we cannot even check it. But even if we grant them this, they only show a part of the picture. Are there breaches of human rights within the conflict? Absolutely. But there are also teachers who hit pupils. Do we close the education system? There are police officers who take bribes. Do we close the police? No, we don't do that. Now, if we want to study about what happens in the 1967 borders, what happens in Israeli conflicts, let's study from what Colonel Richard Kemp, for instance, said. He was the former commander of the British forces in Afghanistan. Yeah. He served at the NATO and the United Nations, and he says, at the UN, he says, based on my knowledge and my experience, I can say this: during Operation Cast Lead, the Israeli Defense Forces did more to safeguard the rights of civilians in a combat zone than any other army in the history of warfare. And this is what we do. In Jenin, in Chomat Magen, okay, yes. the former operation, we sent, I'm so sorry to say, 13 soldiers, Israeli soldiers, to their death because we did not want to bomb the whole building on its civilians. Should we have done this? I don't think so, but we did it. This is the Israeli army, and Israel did so, I continue from Colonel Camp, while facing an enemy that deliberately positioned its military capability behind the human shield of a civilian population. And who uses the breaking the silence testimony? Who uses them? I just saw 2 weeks ago a video from an anti-Semitic demonstration in Ireland, and this person who led this demonstration said, "There is no two sides. We had former Israeli soldiers from Breaking the Silence last week. Everyone should read the book so that we understand everything Israel does is absolutely, deliberately murderous. These are the people who did it. And they tell how they were told to kill innocent people." Now, what did Bogi Ya'alon do, the Minister of Defense?
Just before we will touch on Bogi Ya'alon's post on Facebook, I want you to react about this. What you are accused of, the group is not you specifically, but the group is accused of basically cooperating or helping these anti-Semitic groups in delegitimizing Israel, not basically showing the entire picture. Some people are saying that some of the, let's say, evidence that you're bringing are not evidence or are lies. These are very harsh accusations. These are harsh accusations coming in a really difficult situation because it's not black and white. When I'm trying to explain the situation between the Israelis and the Palestinians, I'm saying it's not black and white. It's complicated and much more complicated than how Sweden is putting it, than how you are putting it, or than the right side is putting it, or the left side is. It's more complicated.
I think the beginning of what Amir just said is maybe the core of everything. Putting the Israeli army, not the Israeli army, the occupation, for 48 years in the West Bank, together with our education system, and saying it's the same thing, this is exactly what we're trying to prevent. Israel is not the occupation. Israel is different. I'm going around the world and telling people there are Israelis who are opposing to the occupation out of loving Israel. There's no voice who's saying exactly this. There's the voices of the members of parliament of Amir's party who come and say that they want the third temple be built on the Temple Mountain. There's nothing that creates more anti-Semitism than that. There's nothing create more anti-Semitism than
member said that.
Tzipi Chotoveli. There's nothing more wrongdoing to Israel than Bibi coming and say that the Arabs are going in buses by the left organization to go to vote. This is what causing us look bad, not soldiers that come and say we want to take responsibilities over what's going on in the West Bank or in Gaza and change it. But this is the good side of Israel, and we need to make it stronger.
Do you understand that maybe you will be used by terror groups, by anti-Israel organizations, by pro-Palestinian organizations to combat Israel, or maybe to get to a point where a soldier is being captive in London just a few days ago because he took part in Operation Protective Edge, and maybe your testimonies are giving the stage or giving the ground for this soldier or for you or for any other one to just not be able to leave the country because maybe you will be detained in an airport.
We're mixing here the problem and the consequences. The problem is a policy that makes us for 48 years, and especially now, the most right-wing government that we had for years, keeping us in the West Bank and saying no matter what price, and in Gaza, yeah, in an immoral way, occupying other people's land in the sake of having settlements, yeah, for example. And this is the core problem. We want to come and say, let's stop this reality. This is what gets me really mad. That Bogi Alon come and says those things, and instead of dealing with the problem of what we have in Israel, the occupation, he comes in sending soldiers and don't let them have an opportunity to protect themselves. We are protecting the soldiers. We're coming and say, you have to deal with what's going on here. We're calling, this is why after Tzuk Eitan, after Operation Protective Edge, we came to the General Chief of Staff and said, we want an independent Israeli investigation over what was going on in Protective Edge. Why? So we will have the ability to come and say, this is what's going on. This is what went wrong, what went not wrong. Not people outside who will decide from us. And when people outside decide from us, this is what happens. And also, I have to say, this is why we keep our testimonies not revealed. Because we don't want the soldiers to be accused with the things that, in the end of it, the government has sent them to do.
So they are hurting the Palestinian population, because what they say is that there are criminals in the Israeli army and they are not revealing them, so they are still in the ground. They're still on the ground. Okay, but
no, I was talking about
this
exactly
you are hurting the Palestinian population.
I was talking about the
but
policy, and this is exactly what you're twisting.
You are also
not the
hurting
policy of what we're doing.
Israel, because I quote from Hamas as a reflection, Hamas, and I'm talking about an organization that yearns for the day where the Muslims
just have half 15 seconds.
Okay, the decision. I'm sorry, it's mine. The decision. Bogi Ya'alon, the defense minister of Israel, made today is something that should have been done long ago. The breaking the silence can spread whatever they want to spread throughout the world, and they do it, but not in the IDF.
Gentlemen,
I just have to say that this is
that's it for tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow.